We give thanks to Almighty Allah, who in His infinite mercies grant us this day and make it a possibility for each and every one of us. When I can see that the respected chairman and some of our guests are on the call already. I am Abdul Hakim Mustafa and I'll be the MC of this program. I want to use this medium to seek the indulgence of the chairman of the foundation or of this event and some of our members who are already to please grant us some little more time, allow some of our members to join the program so that by the time we start the program properly, we will have a full number of participants to benefit from this program. I respected NS North Sab, who is ably representing the most respected Sarah Sab, Mr. Mustafa Abdul Kadir, because I want to ask if my permission or if my request is granted. Assalamu
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Your request is granted.
Jazakallah khairan, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم. وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم. ومن آياته الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر لا تسجدوا للشمس ولا للقمر واسجدوا لله الذي خلقهن إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن. Meaning, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, and who is better in speech than he who invites men to Allah and does good works and says, I am full of good, and do good and evil. Good and evil are not alike. Repel evil with that which is best. And know, he between whom and thyself was enmity will become as though he were a warm friend. But none is granted it. Those who are steadfast, and none is granted it save those who possess a large share of good. And if an incitement from Satan incites thee, then seek refuge in Allah. Surely he is all-erring and the all-knowing. And among his signs are the night and the day and the sun and the moon. Prostrate not yourself before the sun, nor before the moon, but prostrate yourself before Allah, who created them. if it is him whom you really worship. But if they turn away with disdain, they do it to their own detriment, while those who are with thy Lord glorify him night and day, and they are never worried. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة
وعليكم
الله
السلام
وبركاته.
ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakallah khairan, may Allah increase you in knowledge. I don't know if Hafiz Ibrahim is around for the chanting of Qasida.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I'm available, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
هذه
salam.
أبيات مختارة من قصائد المسيح الموعود في الثناء على الله خاصة. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. علمي من الرحمن ذي الآلاء بالله هزت الفضل لا بدهاء. كيف الوصول إلى مدارج شكره نثنيه عليه وليس حول ثنائي. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. الله مولانا وكافل أمرنا في هذه الدنيا وبعد فنائي. لولا عنايته بزمن تطلب لولا عنايته بزمن تطلب كادت تعافيني سجود بكائي. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. أعطيت من إلف معارف لبها أوتيت من إلف معارف لبها أنزلت من حب بدار ضيائي. نتلو ضياء الحق عند وضوحه لسنا بمبتعين تجاب برائي. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. الله كهف الأرض والخضراء رب رحيم ملجأ الأشياء. أحد قديم قائم بوجوده أحد قديم قائم بوجوده لم يتخذ ولدا ولا شركاء. بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. العاقلون بعالمين يرونه والعارفون به رأوا الأشياء هذا هو المعبود حقا للورى هذا هو المعبود حقا للورى فرد وحيد مبدأ الأضواء بشرى لنا إنا وجدنا مونسا ربا رحيما كاشف الغماء. Meaning, these are selected verses from the poems of the promised Messiah in praise of Allah. Glad tidings for us. We have found the sympathetic friend, the merciful Lord, the remover of all sorrows. My knowledge is from the gracious God, possessor of all bounties. Through Allah alone have I attained grace, not through my own addition. How can one reach the stages of gratefulness? We laud him, yet we lack the ability to properly laud him. Allah is our protector and guarantor of our commands, both in this world and the world of hereafter. Were it not for his favor, when I sought him, the flood of my tears will have well nigh obliterated me. I have been gifted the essence of cognition from my beloved. I have been made to descend by my beloved upon the abode of light. We pursue the light of truth as soon as it appears. We are not the buyers of darkness when the moon has risen. Allah alone is the shelter of the earth and the heaven. He is the merciful Lord, the heaven of retreat for everything. He is one, eternal, and self-existent. He takes neither son nor partner. The intellectuals see him through the universe. The enlightened see all things through him. He alone is truly worthy of worship for all creation. He is unique, incomparable, and the source of all lights. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Hafiz Ibrahim, Jazakallah khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase you in knowledge. Join me in silent prayers. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Inshallah, I will deliver the opening speech while the rest of the proceedings will continue. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who in his infinite mercy has given us the opportunity to be gathered together this morning in these blessed months of Ramadan. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides all our deliberation and make it a source of blessing for each and every one of us. Ameen. Sadar Majlis Qudamul Ahmadiyya Nigeria, Brother Abdul Rakib Akiyemi Sahib, have asked me to send his unreserved apology. He would have wanted to be with us in this program, but he has to travel to Ogun State for an official assignment. So we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide him and protect him. And we pray for a very successful seminar this morning. From the theme of the seminar, which is I shall cause thy message to reach the corners of the earth. That theme will sound as a basis for the background of my speech this morning. Once someone objected the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, telling his community that Allah had promised him that without any vaccination, he will be saved from the plague. The promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam replied, and I quote, "Tools and means have been created for the friends of Allah. New technologies had been created to serve Allah's cause." The Ahmadiyya Muslim community, under the leadership of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, and subsequently his Khulafa, has never shied away from using technology. This is something that becomes quite clear when we reflect upon our history. The promised Messiah held the belief and continuously explained through writing and speeches that the invention of this age were caused by Allah Almighty to further his mission. Since it was a time of disorder, unlike anything that had been witnessed in the past, the reformer of the age needed such tool that has never been seen before. Moreover, if Allah Almighty had promised, "I shall cause thy message to reach the corners of the earth," it was Allah Almighty who would create the means for such global propagation to occur. Alhamdulillah, as part of the preparation for the 40 years anniversary of AMSA Nigeria, this seminar has been organized to actually enlighten members on the essence of reporting activities carried out across AMSA chapter and elucidating the nitty-gritty of news reporting to actually promote and publicize the association and its hosts of many beautiful activities. Also, this seminar will harness, if harnessed properly, will complement the tabligh effort of the Jamaat, and if we actually carry out this task as expected, we will be counted as part of those who come together in fulfilling the prophecy of the promised Messiah, "I shall cause thy message to reach the corners of the earth." I want to call on every one of us to be very attentive in listening to this while the speeches are going on, and possibly ask necessary questions at the end of the speeches, so as to be able to utilize whatever knowledge gained today in actually fulfilling the prophecy of the promised Messiah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this workshop a successful one. I pray Allah guide and guard all our deliberations and make it a source of blessings for each and every one of us, and as well a source of blessings for the Jamaat of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we'll go straight to the business of the day. We'll start with lecture 1, which is titled Quality Rapportage, a worthy means to an exponential tabligh. And this will be taken by Mr. Abdul Ghani Adiamo. Mr. Abdul Ghani, Bismillah.
Okay. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I want to stand on existing protocol, and secondly, I want to greet AMSA Nigeria for this wonderful program. As a matter of fact, news tells us of things that happen where we cannot see. As we are now, I'm in Ibadan. I do not know what is happening in Lagos.
The same way some people in Lagos do not know what is happening in Ibadan. It is through the medium of news that we get to know what is happening in the world. As a matter of fact, we used to use the mnemonic of news. We say it is north, east, west, and south. That means that it covers everything. So, starting from that background, I would like to speak to the topic that I've been given. That is quality reportage, what it means to an exponential tabligh. There are quite a number of keywords in this topic. We have the word quality itself, we have the word reportage, we have what it means, and then we have the word exponential and tabligh. When we put all of this together, it tells us something. I will try not to talk more about the reportage part, or let me say the quality reportage anyway, because the next topic is actually about the fundamentals of news writing and reporting. And I believe that the speaker will talk about how do you write, how do you bring ideas in together. I may still touch on it. Brian Oladele is my colleague. We were at the same time we were at the Polytechnic. At the same time we were at the Truth. We were together on Al-Irfan and so on. And today we are also together on An-Nasr magazine. So I believe that it will do justice to this, and whatever it is that I might have forgotten, I believe that he will take it upon himself to kindly elucidate. Having said that, how do you measure quality? How do you measure quality? I like to think of quality as in both in content and in form. Are we together, please?
Yes, we are together.
Okay. When we say something has quality, we are talking about the content of it and then the form in which it is presented. I want to think of quality in those two aspects. Now, when we say in content, quality as in what? What need does it satisfy? When you have a content, what need does it satisfy? When we were in secondary school in those days, we used to talk about essay because the beginning of every writing starts from that secondary school, or let me say the primary school composition. Write about yourself, write about your school, write about your best friend. These are the little steps that we have taken before we get to the point where we say, okay, we are writing a technical or an highly specialized form of writing, which is news. Now, basically, when you are writing a news, we say that some questions should be answered, the 5 W's and the H. What are the 5 W's? What happened? When does it happen? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? How did it happen? What's the next W? And who is involved? So we have who, what, when, why, where, and how. Now, these questions are actually the basis of any form of stories. So when you're writing a story and you cannot answer at least 5 of these questions in your first paragraph, then the quality is being suspect. Because when you are writing a news, you want to tell us something that is new, something that we do not know about as yet. Now, when you give us the 5 W's and H, very simple. You are thinking of an event and you say, what happened? Okay, you say, the Sadar of Majlis Kudam, Brother Abdurraqib Akinyemi, has encouraged members of the Majlis to be upright in their dealings. Okay, so when you take that first paragraph, first sentence, what do you take? Who? The Sadar of Majlis Kudam, Brother Abdurraqib Akinyemi. Why do we have to put Sadar of Majlis Kudam? Because there may be 2 or 3 or 4 Rakib Akinyemis. Or at the point you are saying, Rocky Bakinyemi, I may not know who you are talking about. But when you say the Sadar of Majlis Kudam, the president of Majlis Kudam, you are telling me who. And then he's not speaking in his capacity as Rocky Bakinyemi, he's speaking in his capacity as the leader of Ahmadi youth in Nigeria. Has encouraged members of the Kudam to be upright in their dealings. What? That is what he said. Who and what? We've said it in one sentence. He made this known while talking to members of the Majlis at an orientation organized. Do you understand that? Are we together? So when
We are together.
he made this known at a workshop organized by members in Oyo State. So we are saying where also. Huh? So all these questions, you must be able to answer them very first in your story. Now, why do we say that? It's because people do not have all the attention of the world. We might say it is different because we are dealing with a very small community, but the Ahmadi audience is very small when you are thinking about the global audience. But then we should not restrict ourselves to that small audience. It is important so that people who do not have the time to read everything you want to say will be able to get the gist of the story. So quality in content. Quality in content. You have your lead, which is the first paragraph in every news. It's the same thing you can call your introduction. Then you have the body of the story. You go ahead, say, okay, this is what the Coid of Oyo State also said. This is what the Delia Coid, the Austin Delia Coid, this is what he said. These are the feedbacks of the people after so and so. But then there are other times when you have to bring out a background. A background. What do we mean by a background in your story? We don't know what is happening in Majlis Kuda. So you need to tell us. Maybe it is during the world, let's say the tree planting week, or during the Right for Peace, or during the Stop the Crime. These are contexts that you have to give us background about. So when you background your story, then we have a full picture, even though we might not know anything about the Majlis Kudam before. In your story, we have already known, okay, this is the leader of the group, this is what he said, this is where he said it, these are the people he was addressing, and this is the context in which he was saying it. So when we say quality in content, that's the first part, is very important. However, your content needs a vehicle. Your content needs a vehicle to move. Imagine that you have a very good story idea, but you cannot write it in very good language, in free-flowing language. That's the form we are talking about. Quality in content and in form. In content, you know what you want to say, but in form, how do you say it? The new system follows an inverted pyramid system, whereby you talk about the most important thing and you narrow down to the least important issues. Now, imagine that your language is not clear to people. Have you communicated at all? Communication only exists when the person you are talking to, when the person you are communicating with understands what you are saying in the spirit with which you have said it. Do we get it, please?
That we too.
If I say Baba Ladbafo, I say the word Baba Ladbafo, and you understand it to mean a washman, who, you understand, somebody who does laundry business, who is a man, then you understand perfectly what I'm saying, because we have achieved an equilibrium of meaning. It is what I mean that you understand. So the medium The vehicle with which you carry that is the language. Now, I have said that however beautiful your idea is, if you cannot present it in the most suitable way, you don't have any idea. Huh? Let me give you an example. I hope everybody knows Honorable Patrick Obahiadon of Edo State.
Yeah.
The man who says the tantamunculus of the sagacity of so. That
Exactly.
man, everything he says is actually correct. I have listened to his video, I've watched it, and I was pausing the video, checking the meaning of the things he was saying. Everything he was saying was correct. However, the moment he said it, I was only laughing. And I was saying, what is this rubbish, for God's sake? Because he was not communicating with me. I do not understand what he was saying. The vehicle, the language was not correct. Are we together? The language, which is the vehicle with which he carries it, the form is wrong. Now, what do we mean? You should be able to use the simplest language possible. The simplest language possible. And when I was in secondary school, my teacher, Dr. Taiwa Ajani, told me that anything you want to write in this world, let it be understandable to a 7-year-old kid. Take that as a rule. That's the rule I've been using all this while. We'll be able to understand writing in free-flowing, error-free language. Whether you are writing in English or you are writing in any other language, let it be free-flowing. Let it be very simple. You see, there was, around the time I was in 100 level, I was trying to read a book by Professor Wole Soyinka. It is called The Interpreters. I don't know if anybody has seen the book, The Interpreters. I think it is only novel. He is not known to write novels, but he does poetry, he does drama. So The Interpreters was his novel then, as at that time. And I set myself a challenge that I want to read this man. I want to what he wrote in The Interpreters. Now, Soyinka writes basically in Yoruba. I don't know if anybody has said this, whether you've heard it before. And so I had the mind of reading Yoruba in English, and everything became clear.
Okay, and you sometimes find out that they exaggerate all the stories, everything in that story. They exaggerate it, and you feel like, oh, when I get newspaper, I will read myself. You get to the paper, and you don't see that story. Or because the story has been sensationalized. Now, those are things that are current. However, it is the purpose that tells you how you write the story. Our own purpose is stability. We want to report. We have done lectures, we have done public lectures. However, only 90 people are present in that public lecture. How do we get other people to know of the public lecture? Our stability. Now, when we report, what exactly happens? Because it's not quality reporter that we're talking about now. We want to achieve stability. Because we want the stability to be exponential. The math people tell us that when something is exponential, it means it multiplies itself by the sum of the last number or something. So that means that I'm very sorry if I'm not correct. It's not a very mathematical. It means that when you say 3 times 3, and then you want to do exponential like that, you're saying 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. It will not be like 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which will not be exponential. So it means when you are doing something, you reach 50 people and you want to reach more. You times 50 by whatever number you want. How do we do that? It's truth and nothing for this. Writing the truth and nothing for this. And then showing the viewpoint of Ahmadiyya, right? That's how I believe that the quality reportage can use to achieve that exponential ability. So, for instance, a non-Ahmadi that reads a paper to be able to say, oh, the Minaret University that Ahmadiyya is doing, I'm interested. I want to send my child. The child that person sends will be introduced to the tablet that we do. So it is how we report it that we say how people see it. And you can have the truth, but not honesty. So when you say you want to achieve exponential tablet, I believe your story should be written truthfully and honestly. That's what I believe that will help us achieve this tablet that we want. It also means that we have to document. You see, when it comes a journalist as borrowed historian or something like that, because the word journalist, let's break it down, is from the word Jew in French, which means day. The word Jew, that's where you will see the French people when they want to greet themselves, they say bonjour, good morning. Good day, bonjour. So journal is like diary. See my journal, that's my diary. So a journalist is somebody who records what happens today as a historian in the future. So as a journalist, as an Ahmadi journalist who writes for Ahmadiyya publicly, it means that we do not beg and say, oh, this story is important and this story is not important. Every story, everything that we do is important. We have to record it. And I'm marveled at how they do some of these things at the international headquarters in London, where they can tell you that, okay, we have a program and so number of people watch you on Facebook Live. So number of people followed us on Instagram Live. So number of people were with us on YouTube Live. And so number of people were with us physically. Therefore, this program that we have, so only 50 people were there. Add 100, or let's say add 1,000 and something. That's what is as a journalist. So you document it as it happens in your conference. And now you do not let that issue. I do not believe that you have to bet that this is important and this is not important. I believe that what we need is able to document everything, every part of the issue. And that's what I believe will help us achieve this exponential ability that we want to take. So I could remember something when I was anyway, I cannot remember. Around 2017 anyway. He did an archive of the Truth newspaper. Just brought the Truth newspaper and we gave it to the people who were at the desk saying that they should record it. They should archive it. What we want to achieve, may Allah continue to be with us. May Allah guide our steps in everything. And may He take us body ambassador of Majam. I believe that I'll be able to talk a little about the topic. If there are questions, I would like to entertain them. And if on the call, I believe that my brother Rata or Idola didn't خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام
وعليكم
ورحمة الله
السلام
وبركاته.
ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah increase you in knowledge. Jazakumullah khairan. I will go straight to the second lecture, which is the fundamentals of news writing and reporting. And this will be delivered by Mr. Tawheed Oladile Sahib. Mr. Tawheed, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I give thanks to Almighty God for giving us the grace to be part of this noble cause of AMSA Nigeria. Is actually a worthy program for us all. And I pray may Allah Ta'ala reward you immensely for this initiative. I also want to stand on existing protocol. Because of the time, I want to go straight to the topic given to me, which is the fundamentals of news writing and reporting. Although my boss, as I actually call him, has actually mentioned one aspect of what I have in mind to discuss here, but maybe if time permits me, I'll also get there and explain for which is using inverted pyramid style of writing news. If time permits now, I'm going to shed more light on that. But let's get started. The fundamentals of news writing and reporting. Looking at that topic, I think we need to understand what fundamental is. We need to understand what news writing and reporting is. Fundamentals, based on the Oxford Dictionary, it actually means the essential parts. The news writing and reporting. News writing, the act of writing news, the act of writing what happens in the society, the right of communicating to people, heterogeneous people, about what is happening in our society, with a view to making them, with a view to disseminating some vital information to them. Reporting can be described as an activities which entails gathering information of interest to other people and presenting it to them in a way that makes them understand and remember it. You will agree with that. It is the function of the reporter. When reporting, the person involved in reporting is reporter. The reporter collects facts and opinions and sundry details concerning everyday occurrence and presents all these in a simple and succinct manner to the public. So, reporter plays the most basic role since he serves as the primary link between the universe of events and personalities out there and the medium under which he operates. That is to say, a reporter is the bridge between the members of the public and the aggregate of occurrences beyond his immediate environment. So, having said that, I think we need to go to how do we report? I have been able to establish that the function of reporting is actually the major duty of a reporter. He reports what happens around us, not for his own consumption, but for the consumption of people out there, people that he may not even know, he may not even see, people that are scattered all over the country. It might even be beyond this shore of the country. So, what are the processes of reporting? How, as a Majis Kuda Mamadia who want to report, who have something to say that happened in locality, on the state, who wants to pass information, how does he do it? And the first thing he will do, number one, is he will have to determine the newsworthiness of that event. This is the first stage of process of reporting. It means if the reporter has to determine is the news he wants to write, he wants to communicate, is it newsworthy? Although we are still going to get there. How do we measure the newsworthiness of event? There are some events that happens in our environment that are not newsworthy, that we don't need to report. It's not news. Let me give an example. The Satar Majlis Ahmadiyya has paid a visit to his members in Akure. That may not be newsworthy enough if the Sadar does not have any important things to say, or if he doesn't have an important function to perform there. He's only going there to greet them, to say hi to them. It's not newsworthy. But what he wants to do there is that newsworthiness is what is newsworthy about his visitation. So AMSA members should be able to know when an event is newsworthy or not. It is what the SADA wants to go do at the event that is newsworthy, not the personal visitation that mattered. Therefore, a good reporter should aspire to process a yardstick for measuring the newsworthiness of any event before it can be regarded as the news. Number two, if you have been able to establish that this event is newsworthy, the number two is, how do we gather it? Gathering of events. This shows how taxing the work of a reporter. The reporter runs helter-skelter to gather information concerning the issue he wants to cover. The reporter also, as far as possible, has to be on the scene to record. Before you can report, you have to be on the scene to record what is going on and what happened after that. You may not be there, but you may be given some scoop about what happened there. Everything for a person may be there. Why you are not there? So you may be given. So you need to be acquainted with what happened before you know how to present your case, present your story. Number three, because of time, number three is collation and sifting of data. Having gathered all the information, you have interviewed, we have talked to the SADA, let's say it's a SADA event, you have spoken, you were there when the event started, you have listened to him, you've listened to other speakers that have spoken, and you are still yet not convinced about the nature of the program or the reason behind the program. After the program, you meet the SADA, you meet the personality there, you still talk to them one-on-one. Having done that, after you've done that, number three, you need to do something. You need to collate and sift your data you've gotten. This is about sifting the data in order to put aside data that are not relevant to the story. It entails separation of the wheat from the chaff. Unverified and are you with me, sir? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Unverified and unsubstantiated fact should be removed from the story. It depends on what you want to write. It's not all data that are reported in the news. There's some things you remove, and something you had. Haven't gotten all the facts. At this stage, sense of newsworthiness is displayed by the reporter's important data that will constitute this one. At this stage, it is your having gathered everything you want to say. It is then, okay, I want to write. There are some data that are more important. There are some there's a particular data that I should mention first before another. That is where the sense of reporter comes into play. Then the last but not least is the writing of the story. Having done that, then you can write your story. A written story depend on how well the job has been done as regard the success of each of the stages above. What comes to play is the writing skill of the reporter, who is expected to display his mastery of English language, as Mr. Diamond has said, so as to produce comprehensive accounts of the occurrence. So these are the process. These are the process of reporting. Number one, a reporter determines the newsworthiness of event, how newsworthy that event is. Number two, he gathers the information together. Then after gathering the next thing I want to discuss is what are the qualities, what are the attributes and attributes of a successful reporter? Reporter in this sense, I don't mean someone who has studied mass communication or who has studied communication and language at the University of Polytechnic. I mean, I'm talking about just as a khadim now, who is given a job to report what happens in an event for proper documentation. So I will be using reporter to mean this set of people in mind. A reporter is required number one is physical fitness. Any person that want to report, anybody that want to give a very good reporter to an event should be physically fit. He must be physically fit. Is expected to be agile and pace-taking in order to be able to meet the deadline. He must be able to meet the deadline. He is basically a news gatherer who moves from one source of news to another. As it goes to another way, he moves forward to grant interview to some personality for him to get some important details to what he wants to report. So the reporter is basically a news gatherer who moves from one source of news to the other. And he must be able to arrive early to gather the news. So that's number one. But he has to be physically fit. Then number two attribute of a reporter is he must be a resourceful and intelligent. He should be intelligent and have a inquiring and disciplined mind. He should be a person with conscience, very objective, and have a sound moral judgment. So I'll be able to see and record all sides of the story to avoid bias. A reporter should not be biased in any way. Whenever you are reporting, you're reporting all sides of the story for people to judge themselves. You don't report one aspect and leave the other. That is not your function. You report all aspects and leave the judgment to the people reading you. You should be interested in the job and should like it and show favorable disposition towards it. He should not get into the job because of financial benefits. Then a reporter should be resourceful through his ability to cover any assignment or bit given to him or any other job the head, as we call it, the editor may give to him. He should be very resourceful in order to meet the deadlines, no matter how short. He should be able to understand, he should be able to write English in a simple and accurate way, using the basic rule of grammar, as this first speaker has said. This basic rule of grammar, the rule of concord, present, the singular subject must go with the singular verb, while the plural verb I think that's two basic ones. Singular subject goes with singular verb. Plural subject must go with plural verb. If he's able to understand that, then he will be able to present a very accurate news. Then number 3, a reporter, another quality of a reporter is that it should also be lively and friendly. He should be interested in people and events. It is true that it can be aware of scheduled events or get relevant data about accidental event happenings. You have to, for you to carry that job effectively, you should also be lively, friendly to people. That's when they can come to you. Something has happened, let's do this. And when they have seen what you have done, what you have written in the past, they'll be able to suggest an event for you. Then, number 4, this is very important. This is a very important function, attribute of a good reporter. He must have a nose for news. He must have a nose for news. Anywhere news is, he should be able to perceive news everywhere. Whenever anything happens, he should be able to think about writing a very good story out of that event. He should have a nose for news to be able to identify newsworthy events. Having nose for news is the ability to recognize the news published of an item of it or information. That is, the ability to recognize that a particular event can be made of interest to readers and event. You should be able to, when you have a nose for news, a reporter is able to identify that this event should be heard by the generality of people. This event is good for people to be kept abreast of what happened. So that's when a reporter has a nose for it. Then you should be able to look at the relative importance of that news that you want that happened, relative importance of that event. Can people benefit from this event that happened? If yes, then you need to report it. That's when a reporter have a nose for it. The 5th quality is he should have even temperament. A reporter should have even temperament. When he possesses an even temperament, that will keep him, while they're able to keep his head to go on calmly with his work in the face of approaching deadline and other distraction and demand. So when anybody reporting or wants to give a report to large heterogeneous people, he should also be able to calm down. You don't need to raise unnecessary temperament for a second. You need to calm your nerves. So be able to, even before you be able to even present a very a good writing stuff, then you should have to calm down. At that point, you should be able to think about what has happened on the field, what happened at the scene of the event, what has happened at the scene of the event for you to be able to write effectively. Other qualities of a reporter is he must have integrity, he must be honest. So a reporter should also be confident. He should be confident. You might come across some people that are able to question what you have gotten, what you are doing. You should be able to have that, keep that confidence reposing you while adhering to the mission and vision of whom you are working for. So then also, a reporter should also be accurate. He should never intentionally or carelessly distort news. You must never distort news. Change the news. Say it, write it as you have gathered it. It should be accurate in reporting the news, 100% accurate and nothing else. Accuracy includes correct spellings. Accuracy includes correct spellings, punctuations, name of people. So a good reporter should always strive for accuracy of fact and names of people. Then another quality is objectivity. This is also an important one. It should be objective. It should not be partial. If you are very close to the parties involved in your story, you shouldn't pitch tent with them. You shouldn't support them. Okay, you want to write to suit their feelings. You want to write to make case for them. No. A good news, a credible news won't work that way. A reporter should be objective, should not be partial in anything. His account should be free from bias of any kind. It should aim at presenting the most objective news of any event. The reporter has to spread himself through several aspects of news so as to present concise, correct, and undistorted news. Then also, another quality is it should be fair. It should be fair in his report. During controversy, during any controversial event, he should report all the side of the controversy, as I've mentioned earlier. He should report it. If it concerns the government and the people, report the side of the government accurately. Report the side of the people accurately. Then leave the judgment to the people. Let me, for instance, reporting as a strike, and as the parents, from the lecturers, and even students. It shouldn't pull up news and right. The parent should also have their opinion on what he is writing. It is the reporter's duty to make prompt and correct correction of series of mistakes they might have made. For instance, in the Jamaat now, let's assume you're actually working on the Magic Sudan beat, at the Magic Sudan assignment. And when you interview your source, the source mentions something about women. The source, a male member of the Jamaat, mentions something about the source, mentions something about the Lajina. Before you put that in your report, it is expedient of you as a fair journalist, a fair reporter, to consult, at least to also give the women fair hearing by interviewing their head. For instance, you can interview the Lajna Sadar. How true is that statement made by a male member? You can, so that to substantiate your report. You need to do that. Then you report the opinion of that man in your report. You also mention what Lajna have said based on what you have had on the spot of the event. So these are ways. This is one of the ways a reporter can be fair in the judgment, by giving fair hearing, by giving fair report of all sides to the story. Then also, a reporter should also be neat. It is the way they see you. Whoever wants to go out to cover an event should dress neatly. Should dress neatly. A reporter should also should be reasonably well dressed, whether he likes it or not, and compose himself or herself appropriately, so as to give a good impression of the news medium, so to give a good impression of the Majlis, if I'm working for the Majlis or Ahmadiyya as a whole. So then lastly, a reporter should also be bold. A reporter should be brave. He must be brave and courageous. He must not be a coward. He must not be a coward. He should always have courage to ask questions. Yes, whenever need be, he should be confident of himself. So that is, these are the qualities I have penciled down, qualities and attributes of a successful reporter. Now, let me go to the nature of news. What do you understand by news? Also, my big brother has mentioned said something about news that it has a mnemonic way of pronouncing. News is not, N is not, E is east, W is west, S is south. That is, it's an event that cut across the whole geopolitical zones in Nigeria. But what is news in? If I ask us, what do I say about news? Because news is it has some diverse, and different way we define them. There is no specific definitions for news because we have so many scholars in reporting that have mentioned something about that. So we don't, but for our understanding, it is expedient to ask what is news. Based on what news is unusual. Number one is news is unusual event. Anything unusual, anything out of the ordinary is always the news. Let me give an example. If you have a disaster, and that's why we always say bad news is a good news. When buildings like collapsed buildings we are having in Lagos is a good news to those in the trade. It's a good news. When building collapse, 30-story building collapse is a good news. So anything unusual, whenever it happens, is a news. The news is okay. Let me give when a dog bites him, when a dog is beaten by a man, no, it's normal. When a dog bites a man, it's a normal thing. It may not be news. But when we see a man biting a dog, it's a news. So because it's unusual. When a monkey is given birth by a woman, it's a news. These are something unusual, which when it happens, it is regarded as news. Then also number two, news is change. News is change. Whenever something that is important changes, that change is newsworthy. Let's give an example now. They just concluded election we had in Nigeria. The party in power is APC. Let's assume you have a change of. Let's assume this concluded election was actually won by the opposition party, which is PTP. It's a news. When we have a change, when there's change, is a news. Then number three, news has impact. News has impact. Whenever anything that has a significant effect on the people is always a news. I'm sure you are with me, sir. Are we together, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Anything.
Yes, we have.
Okay, sir. Anything that has any significant effect on the people, like this money cash policy, it actually affected the whole Nigerian. Is a news. Fuel crisis, fuel hike is a news. And within the Jamal too, we can mention some event that affect all of us. JASA is there. When JASA is coming, the reportage on JASA is the news. ITIMA, auxiliary bodies ITIMA, like Magic Sudan, they are all news to us. Any reportage you have on this event, they are news. So any event that has impact on the generality of people, they are news. A news that report on famine, that report on drought, or industrial unrest, or strike, crisis in schools, university, all these are news. The news is also timely. News is timely. Anything called news is always timely. Anything that happens, if it happens and is reported, is a news. Because we always say that yesterday's news is old, and old news is no news. That's what we usually say. It is what is happening today, or a very hot event, or what has taken a different perspective that constitute news. It's something happening now that constitutes news. Then news is also conflict. Conflict. When people disagree and when there's disagreement on important matter, there is news in it. When two people are having a struggle over, there's always conflict there. So when people are struggling over something, uh, political parties, election, there is always the news. The news is about people. News is about people. Anything we are reporting, if it's about people, is always news. When people accomplish something, when someone pushes cocaine, or when people die, and the more prominent people and the more prominent the person is, the more the news is. When anything happens to the prominent people, it's always a news. Wherever Sada goes, wherever he attends an event, wherever Amil goes to make be in visits to commission a particular project, they are always a source of news for a reporter. So we have so many definitions of report. Let me just give. Normally, we know news to be a report of an event containing timely information which has been accurately gathered and written by a trained reporter for the purpose of serving the reader, listener, or viewers. So that is news for us. That is news. Let me now go to the news values. News values and determinants. News values and determinants. What do you mean by news values? News values or determinants are the factor that determines the newsworthiness of event. I have mentioned earlier that as a reporter, you need to be concerned before you start gathering it. You need to consider the newsworthiness of an event. Then news values will teach you about the factors that determines the newsworthiness of event. They are the criteria for determining how newsworthy an event is. These criteria are as follows. Number one is consequence or impact. That's number one. Before we can call a news item a newsworthy, then it must have a kind of what they call consequent impact. This news value stresses the importance of the report to a majority of the target audience. If it affects so many people, if what you want to report affects so many people, then that news is newsworthy. Report it, write it, and send it to your editor for publications. It refers to an event which affects a large number of people. For instance, if the government releases the budget for a fiscal year, it concerns almost everybody in the country and therefore must be reported. Also, if there is a circulation of killer paracetamol syrup, it will be reported on the basis of its impact to alert Nigerians to avoid dangers reported by that product. So that's one of the news values. If it affects so many people, also in our Jamaat, also if news I don't want to report affects virtually all auxiliary body, then you can say it is newsworthy. Number two, auditing. Auditing. What do you understand of auditing? ODDITY. Auditing. Events that are unusual. Any event that are unusual usually makes interesting stories. Auditing is unusual story, unusual event. Event tí ò ń sábà ṣẹlẹ̀, kó wá ṣẹlẹ̀. Yes, it's a news. I mentioned earlier, I said, bad news is a good news. When something unusual happens, it becomes news. In most news cycles, the philosophy that when dog bites a man is no news. But that but when a man bites a dog, it should be widely reported because it has elements of newsworthiness. So we should report it. Anything unusual, that take body, and it affects so many people, it should be reported. Then prominence too. That's the third news values. Prominence. The more prominent, powerful, popular people, places, and events are, the more they are likely to attract reports. When we report about Sadar Majid Kudan, when we report about Sadar Lajina, when we report about Sadar Majid Kudan, and we now even want to report the Amir of Nigeria. We are giving report that Amir of Nigeria, Madam Sujima says, that report should be given wide publicity. So it should be reported because it has element of prominence there. So this explains why the rulers, the affluent and celebrity often dominate the news on radio, television, newspapers, and magazine, often to the total exclusion of some other fellows who deserve attention but who are not prominent. It says that if you are prominent, you will get coverage, but if you are not, so these are, when you check our news media in Nigeria, you see birthday parties of some prominent people. Yes, because they are prominent, people want to read them. People want to know what they have done because of their position. So that's prominence. Number 4, conflict. I've mentioned conflict. Anytime there is conflict, there's always news. I didn't pray for it. Anytime we can't even have it, we don't pray. If there's any squabble between any of the Sadran, it's because of news, although we will report it based on the Nizam Jama. But if it is outside, if it is contemporary world, we are going to report it. Whenever there is issues, conflict among people, we will report it. When president of the country or President Muhammad Buhari is having issues with NLC president, it becomes a news. Today, the world is replete with conflicts, rebellion, political disturbances, and wars. When we talk about this situation, many things comes to play, and stories arising from such events are given coverage because people have developed an appetite to consume news items that are dominated by crime. Cool, diverse, and I said it, people don't want to read normal stories again. They want to read diverse story. And you see many people having a kind of liking to read issues rather than issues that are replete with conflicts, rather than the normal issue. So that's one of the news values we have. And we have proximity. Naturally, people feel closer to people and events that are familiar with than those that exist away from them. People want to read news that talk about Nigeria. People want to read news that happen to Lagosians, if I'm in Lagos. People want to read the news that pertain to your state. So you feel familiar, you feel closer, you want to read news that actually captured your area. And that's where proximity comes in. Proximity could be geographical and it could be psychological. When people respond to issues around where they live, this is called geographical proximity. But when event takes place in distant places and concern people in any way, this event will certainly be reported. But proximity could also be psychological as a result of attachment people feel to ideas. Some people admire gay. Some people admire gay, although they are not religious anyway. Some people admire a policy that we think in religious setting is rubbish because they have a kind of attachment to such thing. That's what we call psychological proximity. So people, a news tend to gain coverage, tend to get more reported when it's when people have a kind of familiarity with such news item. The another one is timeliness. I've mentioned the news is always fresh. There's no yesterday's news. Anything that happens. If governor talks today, many people will read. If CBN governor talks today about the Naira policy we're having, about this, many people will read. So because timeliness, people are expecting it to talk. It's supposed to be something new. Then the last is the currency. Current stories, currency. This refers to ideas and concepts. While timeliness refers to specific or particular event. The hardworking newspaper find out what is in vogue and report everything concerning it. For example, when HIV/AIDS started spreading, journalists started researching into the origins of the disease, its symptoms and fatality or mortality rate. So anything, any concepts, any ideas that is in vogue, it usually gains more coverage. So having said that, I now want to go to so let's go to structure of the news. Structure of a news story. I think I'm getting there. Structure of a news story. I've mentioned the news values. I've talked about the nature of news. I've also talked about the people behind the gathering of news. But I want to talk about the structure of a news story. Story structure distinguishes newspaper and broadcasting from other type of writing. The way we write news is different from the way other writings are done. The news, the author of this other form of composition may begin with the minor details, get to know it. The author of this other form of composition may begin with the minor details and get to the climax, to the end of the essay. It can employ the use of suspense to attract readership. I'm sure. Are you getting me, sir? Are you with me?
Yes, we are with you.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, sir.
Okay, sir. I'm actually discussing the structure of a news story. Writing a news story is different from other form of writings. In other form of writings, like whether we have narrative, descriptive essays, we have argumentative essay, the authors of these stories may begin with the minor details and get to the climax till the end of the essay. In these write-ups, in these essays, the writer can employ use of suspense to attract readership, whereas the introduction or the lead of a news story determine the readership. News story is different. The most important thing is usually set first, because in news, as far as news is concerned, people don't have luxury of time to read all the news that have been reported in newspaper. How many of us have bought a newspaper and read everything inside it? And that's why newspaper usually employs using a format where the most important thing, the most important idea is mentioned the first paragraphs. The news writer reverses the plans of organizations. The news writer reverses these plans of organization. It begins with the climax. In its first paragraph, the first paragraph of a news story begins the lead. It begins with the most important information or climax of the story he wants to tell. The story goes on down in descending order of importance. This form of mass media writing is what we call inverted pyramid style. That's what Brother Adama mentioned the other time. That is using 5 Ws and H. So this form of mass media report is what we refer to as inverted pyramid style. The purpose of this form of structure is to present the news quickly because people don't have time to read. The purpose of this form of structure is to present news quickly, clearly, and ready to help the reader easily understand the concept. Its basic logic grows out of the different ways in which readers approach news story. Some will be so interested in the subject that they read every word the reporter writes. When we read the headlines, we assume we have known what the whole story says, and we drop it. So the headline should be catchy. When we read Amir approves, okay, Uzur approve another payment structure. Let me put it like that. When we read that, okay, we want to know, okay, Amir has approved another payment structure. Okay, let me read the first line. The first paragraph will capture what are the payment structure the Uzur has approved. So we use this inverted pyramid style to make the news ready to be consumed by the readers. A news story can be divided into 3 parts. Brother Adama didn't go into details, although he was able to mention the 5 Ws and H, who is involved, what happened, who, what, why the event happened, where the event happened, when it happened, and how it happened. Also, this basic structure also is in line with the inverted pyramid style. So in continuation, a news story can be divided into 3 main parts. These are the headlines. Everybody knows the headlines. AMSA Nigeria holds seminar on news story. AMSA Nigeria holds seminar on news story, on news writing. That's the headlines. The lead, the second part is the lead. They are the first paragraphs. Then the body, the third one. So let me talk about each of these examples, each of these parts that I mentioned. The headlines now. We all know the headlines. We have come across newspapers. The headlines is the topmost part of a news story. It introduces the news story and attracts readers' attention. And it's always very short and reveals the content of the news report. AMSA Nigeria holds news writing seminar, and it is usually short and it has to grammatically correct using the subject-verb agreement. AMSA Nigerian is the subject. Oaths. Oaths. We can use oaths, or that's a singular verb, or organizes. AMSA Nigeria organizes news writing seminar. Organizes. So it shouldn't be organized. So that's headlines. Then the leads. The lead is the first paragraph. So the lead sometimes refers to the intro or introductory paragraph. It is the most important part of a news story. Yes, because it states the essential element of the story, and it is usually the first paragraph containing the 5 Ws and H, which Brother Adele mentioned. It usually contains the 5 Ws and H. Any lead of his news stories, any lead, any first paragraph, any introductory paragraph may contain the 5 Ws and the H. These are who is involved in the news, what happened, where it happened, when it happened, why it happened, and how it happened. So that is an example of a lead. So I have one example here. So let me read the examples so that we can. 12 students 12 students of University of Lagos. Listen, 12 students of University of Lagos were seriously injured yesterday. Okay, let me read again. 12 students of University of Lagos Akoka were seriously injured yesterday in a fracas with cult groups along hostels. These students, who have since been treated and discharged at the nearby hospital, were victims of retaliation by the cult groups for allegedly exposing their members. I will read the lead again, that's the introductory paragraphs. 12 students of the University of Lagos Akoka were seriously injured yesterday in a fracas with cult group along a hostel. Full stop. These students, who have since been treated and discharged at a nearby hospital, were victims of retaliation by the cult groups for allegedly exposing their members. Hello. Let's look at the lead now. A careful look at the paragraph will reveal the 5 W's and H. Let's look at the lead. Let's now bring out the 5 W's and H there. The who there, the who in this lead, the who in this lead is the 12 students of the University of Lagos, Akoka. Who, the people involved, who is involved, the 12 students of the University of Lagos. Then the what happened? The students sustainers of injury as a result of the clash. The sustained injury, that's sustainers of injury as a result of the clash. Where it happened, where nearby hostel, a named hostel, nearby hostel. When it happened, when according to the lead, it's yesterday. Why it happened? Because they exposed the activity of cosmic. That's the reason why. Because they exposed the activities of the cult members. How it happened, how the event happened. It happened in a fracas. How it happened, they are fighting themselves. The two cult groups are actually so in a fracas. Looking at this lead, it is important to note that the lead may not contain all the 5 W's and H. It may not contain everything as we have seen in this lead, but must, as much as possible, take care of a good number of elements. In addition to the above stated lead could also be stated by giving answer to any of the 5 W's and H. Your lead may contain the who alone. The lead may contain the who alone. For example, let me give another example. The Amiru, Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat Nigeria, Alhaji Abdulaziz Alatoye has commissioned two hospitals at Ibadan yesterday. So, full stop, that's the lead. It only contained the who alone, no any other information. The other W's and H will come up in the subsequent paragraphs. So, Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat Nigeria, Dr. Alhaji Abdulaziz Alatoye has commissioned two hospitals at Ibadan yesterday. Has commissioned two hospitals at Okeado, Ibadan yesterday. So that's the who. The lead only contain the who story. Every other W and H can come up in subsequent paragraphs as the what happened, where the event happened, when it happened. So these are then also The what alone, the what, the W what can also form part of, can only form only the part of the lead in exam. Look at this. Look at this example. 20 workers were injured yesterday in a fresh outbreak of violence. A striking worker threw stones at the police. This news event actually captured the what lead. It only captured the what lead there. 20 workers were injured yesterday in a fresh outbreak of violence. A striking workers threw stones at the police. It captured the what only. What? The other aspect, the other W's and H will come up in the subsequent paragraph. The where now. This is the location or destination of stories, event. Where did it happen? It is important to include this information since proximity is a vital news element. Yeah, people want to know where event happened. People want to know where event happened. Look at this example. Ikorodu in Lagos State. Ikorodu in Lagos State has attracted a 5-star hotel, which is expected to boost tourism. This lead actually concerns the where Ikorodu in Lagos, and that's how it's mentioned first. It concerns the where lead. The other ones will be explained in the subsequent paragraph. So then we also have the when lead. The when lead. This is necessary to give a sense of recency to a story. So if the reporter think about giving the recency to a story, he might choose to use it from the when lead. Look at the example. The president will submit a fresh budget proposal to the National Assembly on Tuesday next week. Like that. On Tuesday next, if you decided that you want to give the date, you actually consider the date more. So you can use the when lead. The president will submit a fresh budget proposal to the National Assembly on Tuesday next week. So what we are trying to say is that it's not compulsory you have to use all the 5 W's and H in the first paragraph of your news story. If you succeed to use it, good luck. But it's not compulsory. You can use who alone. You can use when alone. You can use what alone. You can combine 2 or 3 together, and you use the other 2 in the next paragraph. You can combine 1, 2, and use the other ones in the subsequent paragraph. So that's the reason why I'm giving you examples of. Then let me look at the why lead. The why lead. This is talking about the reasons why events happen, why something happened. It's talking about the cause of an action or event. Look at the example. In order to orientate, let me give an example. In order to orientate the members of AMSA nationwide, in order to orientate the members of AMSA Nigeria on news writings, in order to orientate members of AMSA nationwide on news writing, AMSA Nigerian has organized a one-day online seminar to achieve that aim. That's the reasons why the seminar is. So the lead is actually concentrating on the why lead, not what now, not what this is still the reasons. So in order to orientate members of AMSA, AMSA nationwide on news writing, AMSA Nigerian has organized a news writing seminar on Sunday to achieve, you give the date to achieve that feat. So that is why lead. So that is also one of the ways we can use why lead. Then The last one is the how lead. This gives details to explain how something happened. It explains how an event took place. This must be arranged chronologically, how an event happened. So that is you are not looking at the what now. You are looking at the how event happened. Look at this. As soon as it has collected a pass from one of his winger, Agawa penetrated the porous defense of the opponent before releasing a signature grounder that gave his side the victory. How something happened, you can use that as one of the lead. If you don't want to look at the who, but this how is usually used by professionals. You may not start from it. You can start from the what, you can start from the who, you can start from the where, but other ones, by the time as time goes on, we'll get better on using this kind of lead. So, in a nutshell, a lead is a paragraph fashioned out to give a bird's eye view of the content of the story. This is meant to give the reader all he wants about the new story, to encourage him to read on and to establish the mood of the story. The lead is so important in journalistic practice that it has been described as the writer's showcase, where it displays his work. Readers and editors believe that if a writing has nothing to show, it probably does not have any news to tell. This means, therefore, it is with the lead that the writer displays the expertise in writing. As a writer, you must write your lead and rewrite it as many times as possible to make it acceptable. The lead should therefore summarize the most important aspect of the story, and most importantly, arouse the reader's interest. But if the lead is boring or uninteresting, reader may not want to read the story. And if they do, they will not finish the story. So that's the reason why we should take proper caution when we are writing about the first paragraph. Therefore, since lead represents more or less the window of the entire story, it should aim at sustaining the reader's interest throughout. So, leaders lead. Let me talk about using inverted pyramid style. This is the area Brad Deame mentioned, although I have mentioned part of it, but it just is expedient of me to also mention. Then I will tell out the inverted pyramid style and tell out the reasons why we use it. Then we'll close. I close the speech. So using inverted pyramid style, let's look at this. What does it mean? Why do reporters use that kind of style as against other method of writing? Reporters use a form of writing called inverted pyramid style. The lead in inverted pyramid style summarizes the topic, as each of the following paragraphs presents some additional information about it. It talks about the names, it talks about the description, quotation, conflicting viewpoints, explanation, background data, and so forth. Most paragraphs are self-contained units. They require no further explanation, and the only summary of the entire story appears in the lead. New stories are written from the most important to the least important details. That's where we write. We start with the most important thing that happened in the event to the least important details, and never with any type of conclusion. We don't conclude in the story. In conclusion, we don't write it. Give event that happened. After you mention your lead, give additional information. Give other speaker. Okay, if you attend, let's say you attend a seminar or you attend a function, Amir has spoken. You have actually picked your lead from what Amir has said as the most important person in that event. First paragraph, you also say some more thing about what he said. Second paragraph, you've said some other thing about what he said there. Give hearing to other speakers there. Okay. On his own, the National Tabligh Secretary, Dr. Said Olujotiben, also said this. That's third paragraph. Give also other speakers, tell the readers, tell the viewers, tell the listeners what other people have said in that gathering. And that's how news to write. We start from the most important thing to the least important thing. So the primary advantage of inverted pyramid style is that if someone stop reading a story after only one or two paragraphs, the person will still learn the story's more important details. If I read the first story, if I read the headline, first paragraph, I should be able to understand what is inside the. That's why we use inverted pyramid style. Yeah. If someone stop reading a story after only one or two paragraphs, that person will still learn the story's most important details. That's why we use it. The inverted style also ensure that all the facts are immediately understandable. Moreover, if a story is too long, that's another way why you use it. If a story is too long, editors can easily shorten it by deleting one or more paragraph from the head. However, by deleting one or more paragraph from the end. However, the inverted pyramid style also has some disadvantage. First, delete summarizes the fact that later paragraph discussed in greater detail. Some of these facts may be repeated. Yes, it happens. You have to repeat what you have mentioned in the lead story in the subsequent paragraphs. Some readers may actually know this because they read, they may have an eagle's eye to detect that. Second, a story that follows the pyramid style rarely contains any surprises. The lead immediately reveals very major details. Yes, now we start from the most important thing to the least important thing. So it doesn't. We are not writing features writing. We are not writing interpretative. It's not. We are not writing any form of essay. Now you leave the most important. You leave it at the end to give surprises, to give suspense. You don't do that in news writing. We start with the most important details. Third, this style makes some story more complex and more difficult to write. Despite these problems, reporters still use the inverted pyramid style for most news stories. Look at this. If two cars collide, injuring several persons, an inverted pyramid style about the event may contain the following sequence of paragraphs. If two cars collide, injuring several persons, an inverted pyramid style about the event may contain the following sequence of events. Okay, the first thing is you write the paragraph one. Paragraph one, you identify the injured. Paragraph two, you explain how the accident occurred. Paragraph three, you can quote one driver, a police officer, a witness. Paragraph four, you describe the damage of the vehicle. Paragraph five, you describe traffic problem caused by the accident. Paragraph six, background. In that background, you reveal that several similar accidents are to occur on the same location. So you can use it's actually it works. It actually works. When people want to get the most important details in a story, then we use inverted pyramid style. So why do we use it? Why are we using inverted pyramid style in news writing and reporting? Number one, to help the reader in a hurry grab. To help those who are in Lagos State don't even have time. Everything is done in a rush. To help the reader in a rush grab the theme of the story, even when you read the first 1 and 2 paragraphs only. That's number 1. Number 2, to present the news climax first, to satisfy readers' curiosity. Those who yearn to know the details can read the rest of the story. That's number 2, to present the news climax first to satisfy readers' curiosity. Those who want to know the details can read the entire story. To facilitate makeup. If the story proves too long for the available space, the editor, sub-editor can delete one or more paragraph from the end without sacrificing anything important. That's one of the reasons why we use the body parameter style. If you have started with the most important thing to the least important, if the story the reporter has written actually is too long, the sub-editor can cut 1-2 paragraph from the end, and it will not affect the major points raised in the story. So number 4 is to help the subtext in editing, in headline writing. To help the subtext in headline, this headline is got by condensing it. So actually, most people that write the lead at the first paragraph of any story, because they usually use, most people that write it usually want to pass very important information to the readers reading it. And that's how we start with the most important thing. So in a nutshell, we use inverted pyramid style to convey or to the most important thing to the reader. Normally, news media emphasize either the role that people play in a story or the story impact on lives of those people. As a consequence, paragraph 1 identify the person who went injured, and paragraph 2, based on the story I mentioned earlier, the inverted pyramid style is the most appropriate for short, simple stories that have only one source and one main topic. So, in summary, I've just been able to explain the fundamentals of news writing and reporting. But before I conclude, I will have to go over what I have done. In my discussion, I have tried as much as possible to tell us what news writing and news reporting and news writing is, and who is a reporter. I've also tried as much as possible to tell us the process of reporting, which we start from considering the newsworthiness of an event to considering the newsworthiness of an event. After I've done that, to talk about the gathering of information. After gathering, a reporter needs to sieve the data he has gotten and collate appropriately before he start writing the news. There are also mentioned the qualities and attributes of a successful reporter, which aside from his physical fitness, it has to be physically fit, and the reporter should also be resourceful and intelligent. He is also resourceful and intelligent. Then a reporter should also be lively and friendliness in order to get some scoop from people around so they can lead him to where he can get a news item. If you are friendly, if you are lively, people will help you in getting news where you can. If you are working for an organization, then also a reporter should have a nose for news. I've explained that you should be able to perceive news, smell news, as we usually say, smell news all around. And any event that's happening within himself or herself, he should be able to think, is this newsworthy? Can I report it? Does it have an impact? So he should have a nose for news. Then the reporter should also have a good temperament. You should accommodate people. You should be able to accommodate people without being hostile to visitors. You should keep his temperament at a bay. So you should So that's one of another. Then also integrity, honesty, and confidence should be gotten. Should be something that the reporter should possess. Should have integrity so people can believe in him. Should be honest. Should be truthful and straightforward. He's expected to conduct himself in a way that in such a way that to win the respect of people. So I've mentioned this. Then confidence. He should have confidence people can come to him and want to question him based on what he's doing. He should be able to present the case in a way that will show that he knows what he's doing. The reporter should also be accurate, should be objective, and fairness. I think I've mentioned this. A reporter should explain every angle to the story. He shouldn't leave off one angle. If it's an accident, if it's a fracas, if the conflict, report both sides. Report the two sides of the story. Don't report one and leave one. Don't report one and they have mentioned that in case a reporter if a reporter is working on was reporting an event on Magic Sudan and they come across a story of a Lagina, which is not good, it can actually confirm the authenticity of that story from the Lagina president to also give them fair hearing. So that's what I mean. To report both sides. You shouldn't report it talk like that. When Lagina said, Kudam so bad, we should, so that when you present the Lagina, we know that the Lagina president has also said something about it by refuting it or by corroborating what the man said. So that is, then I said it, a reporter should be neat, whether he likes it or not, and he should be bold. He should be brave and courageous. So then I went on to talk about the nature of news. That is, the way we write the news here is different from the way other writings are done. We start the way we write actually make people to want to know what happened in the first paragraph. If a news is read, I think the first paragraph is read, a reader should be able to know what happened or what happened on the site where the event actually happened. So that is what how the news, and I try as much to tell us what news is. This news is unusual. Anything unusual is the news. News is also a change. Any event that has impact is also a news. And news is timely. News is timely. News is also conflict. It's also about people. So I've given us some. Although I gave a one definition of news, news is also an account of event which a newspaper prints in the belief that by so doing it will profit them. So after I've mentioned what the news I mentioned, I also go into news values. What are the factors we can use to determine the newsworthiness of an event? Number one, I mentioned consequence and impact. Consequence. If that news you want to write has consequence or affect majority of people, then we can. It's a good news. And then we also mentioned audity. If the news you want to write is unusual, or it talks about unusual event, then it's also a good news. So if number three is prominence, what we want to write about actually concern the important people. Why sound like a two?
Kindly round up, sir.
Okay. So prominence, conflict, proximity, timeless are these attributes of a news value. So I think with this, then I finish on the usage of inverted primary style, which most news media today use. Hardly can you find a news media that that does not use the inverted parameter. When you pick a newspaper, when you read the headlines, first paragraph, they are usually using inverted parameter. If they don't use the who lead, they are using the what lead. They are not using the what lead, they are using the where lead. So they are using all of this. So that's why every magic school dan or every member of AMSA who are started with the of reporting should know all how to use the inverted pyramid style. Whether you are using everything, the 5 W's and H on the first paragraph, or you're using the what, or you're using the why, or you're using the who. So that's reason, and I've been able to tell us the reason why we use it. Nigerians are busy, Lagosians are busy, other people, so they don't have the number of time to read everything. But when they read the first paragraph, they can, to some extent, know what transverses in the entire story. So that's the little explanation I can make. No matter that, forgive my errors in the course of the discussion. And no matter that, also reward the organizers who has done it important to organize this seminar. No matter that, forgive all our errors. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan. May Allah reward you abundantly. We'll just go straight to the next item on the agenda, which is question and answer. Or if we have anybody who has any question, you can just put up your hand and we will recognize you. And if you wish to drop your question on the chat box, you can also do so. Okay, Abraham Mustafa can kindly speak.
Jazakumullah khairan. First of all, I must appreciate the organizer of this program, and then more importantly, the two speakers whom I really revere so much. I've worked under both of them as editor of Al Irfan magazine for a number of years, and I can testify to their credibility and then the ingenuity in what they've discussed. I don't have a question actually. I only want to make some brief comments, which is just to corroborate what they've talked about. I want to talk about the issue of news writing, news reporting, and then as a tool for tabligh. I think it's highly important we contextualize and localize this particular issue. You know, when I look at the world news from the mainstream media or from the commercial angle of news, everything bad is good news. Any bad event is a good news. But in this context, we are talking about using news reportage for tabligh. We are not going into commercializing news. We are going into reporting something good, something developmental. For instance, if an event happens in AMSA or AU, they should report it so that AMSA, University of Ibadan, could learn and also do the same thing. You know, we should emulate ourselves in doing good things. So we should not focus on bad things because we say, okay, anything bad is news. I mean, in contextualizing the meaning of news in this particular gathering, that's what I'm talking about now. So we need to focus on, okay, what are the good things that is happening among AMSA, among the Jamaat, among the Lajna, among the Ansarullah. We have to project all of this, let other people from other places see this, and then let them also emulate this. The part I want to talk about briefly is the idea of social media. Now, we use social media more. I mean, the AMSA member use social media more. We can, even for those who are not saddled with the responsibility of writing news for AMSA programs or AMSA activities, when you see a news from the AMSA of your unit or AMSA of another unit, retweeting, liking, sharing, with that you are propagating Islam. You are doing the real tabligh that should be done on social media. Not that, okay, you take your pictures, you do this, you do that. That may not be, you could do that, fine. The narcissistic idea should be there, fine. But talking about tabligh on social media should be more of, okay, you write news which is developmental, which is in nature of tabligh. Others who are not members of AMSA could also see it, they can like it, they can share it, and then they can also retweet or do whatever it has to go with it. This spreads faster and it reaches faster than even what we'll talk about mainstream media this time around. So those are the 3 things I want to mention. Other things that I have noted down that I want to talk about that has been covered. And then I will urge the organizer to possibly organize another event that can go into the nitty-gritty of using social media or microblogs for tabligh activities. That will be very, very interesting for members of AMSA, and I think it should be very educative and informative for them. Jazakumullah khairan for the time given to me.
Barakallahu fi. Thank you, Brother Mustafa, for your kind observations and comments. Do we have any other person who would like to ask a question? I think we have time to take one more question. So, Alhamdulillah, I can see that our father, Dr. Qasim Akireti, is on this call, who is one of our special guests and the coordinator of MTA Nigeria Studios, also the Deputy Director, Digital Media Voice of Nigeria. And also our father, respected Abdul Qadir Abdul Rafi, who is a former Sadar Majlis Kudam Ahmadiyya Nigeria. They are both on this call. So we'll give them some time to really address us. So Dr. Qasim Akineti Sahib, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, it's really a great pleasure to be part of your meeting. My apologies for coming late. As I said, I've been involved in quite a lot of meeting this morning, and I had to rush down to the office to meet up with you. So my apologies. Yes, let me first of all appreciate you, your efforts towards ensuring that this you keep pace with development. More importantly, this occasion of a seminar, this writing seminar that they've organized, is extremely apt because in today's world, everyone, either you're a journalist or not, must know how to write and how to write well. Because today, one of the effective tools of tabligh is effective writing. When you write effectively, you convey your message appropriately to the people. Not only one person, 2 persons, but quite millions of people. And in the social media era, writing, prolific writing on major Islamic messages is a plus, and we need it appropriately. And we also know that in Jamaat, in promoting effective writing, a group has also been set up, such as column, to ensure that most of our people get the message right in terms of writing effectively to disseminate the message of Islam Ahmadiyya. So let me just go straight into the task you have given to me, because you have asked me to give you a talk on effective writing, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. However brief it is, please just take it. I'm taking it as a professional, and so cogent salient issue that you need to know about writing. Well, writing essentially has to do with thought process, and thought process it also has to do with your inner thinking. What you have in your mind, what you are going to say is what you are going to write. So it involves a lot of critical thinking and critical thought process. So writing could involve, several things. Messages to loved ones, messages, what we call marketing communication messages, or in our own, sphere in this forum, is writing about the principles of Islam, so that people can really understand the message of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. As she across the message to regional corners of the earth is symbolic, and the only way you can also get this message across quite a number of people is through writing. So, what are the things we need to do? One, anyone that wants to write or pass it across must be well informed. You must be well informed about the messages you intend to pass across. Now, after being well informed on your own, you want to inform another person. What you need to do in writing is use of a simple language, language that conveys your meaning, without that person necessarily going to look around for a dictionary to understand what you're saying. You pass your message across to people in the most simplest form. And in journalism, there's something called KISS. KIS. Says, keep it simple and short. That is what we normally refer to. You keep your message very, very simple. You make it short so that you can convey the message appropriately to the people. Now, for Islamic messages, you have to go extra mile. So, first of all, you see what kind of message you intend to get across to the people. You determine what is the message for. Why am I? So there are 5 things that are very critical to writing, because writing is about you passing a message, you're passing news. So there are 5 critical things that we look out for: this what, where, when, who, and then what, who, when, where, how. We call it 5 W's and H. I think there's still 1 W that I've missed. I'll come back to that. So, what is the message? Who is sending the message? Why do you want to convey the message? Where is the message focused? Who are your target audience? And who is the person sending this particular message? What is the purpose of that message? And how do you intend to convey that message to people? So that is exactly what writing is all about. You must capture the essence of 5 W's and H if you want to convey your message or writing to the people. So in defining this scope, it is incumbent on you as the writer of that message to get these things clear. For example, this is the month of Ramadan. Yes, Ramadan is not new, or Ramadan is global. Everybody is, at this time of the year, everybody expects it. But in all Muslims all over the world, and non-Muslims, you know that yes, we have Ramadan. Ramadan is here. So what are the essence of that Ramadan that we want to get out to people? As it is now, quite a lot of even non-Muslims acknowledge that at this point in time, there is what we call the spiritual rejuvenation of the people. So they are conscious of that. So what are the messages you want to bring out to reinforce these aspects? That is your kind of target. So, and you don't need to bore people unnecessarily. Probably with really long verses of the Quran together. No. Make it simple, make it short. In what is Ramadan? How is Ramadan attained? What do you intend to get as long as the month of Ramadan? And so, how do you go about even observing the Ramadan fast? Who are those eligible to fast? Who are those that are exempted from fasting? Why do we need to fast? What gains are we? What are the gains? What are the benefits of fasting in the month of Ramadan? Don't forget, fasting takes place throughout the year. But this very, very important. So, whatever you are going to write, these are the things you are most put in proper perspective. And that is why, in most cases, in the media, most of the messages from Muslims are not being used. Most of them, and that's what we complain, because we do not identify, we do not make use of this part of it as effectively as it has been. Because for journalists, we do not have luxury of time. When you look at press releases from most of our Muslim organizations, it's just too loaded. And when you have too much of what we call over information overload, the tendency is that the message is trying to pass across. So, and that's exactly why you will see our style in most of them, I believe, watching MTA documentary or news on MTA. You see that we take time. We deliberately ensure that you get the message across to people as fast as possible, as simple as possible. So if you look at the documentaries, especially the documentaries, some video documentaries, we made it as extremely as crisp as possible. Because one message that we are passing across, why do we create that, for example, that video documentary? Because people believe that, oh, Ahmadiyya is only in the urban center. Only few elites accept Ahmadiyya. But in the villages, the peasants don't accept Ahmadiyya. So the message of trying to document is to let people know the truth. And you can see a lot of messages, a lot of recommendations we are doing to get from this. When people get to know that, oh, there's a Muslim community there, and the Ahmadiyya community there, it's good for us. And people get to know where is Resadu, and you're going to find out this is how people have been living their lives. And so when you are writing, please, my brothers, get yourself acquainted with these 5 elements that I've mentioned today. So let me repeat, for those who are just joining us, what is the message? Why is the message important? Why do you have to give the message across? Who is giving out the message? Where is the message coming from? Where is the news coming from? Where is the write-up coming from? And so, for who and why are you writing this particular, why are you bringing this information out? Then, how are you going to get this information out? In today's world, we get most of our writings across using social media because it's the fastest means of reaching the people. Yes, the traditional media is there, newspapers, radio, television are there. But in today's world, social media is the best avenue which you can push your messages across to the people. And that is why if you are using Twitter, for example, Twitter has hinted you to a number of words. Because within the ambience of this number of words, you can get your message across to people. Of course, we have a social media platform like Facebook, where you can also express yourself as much as possible. But again, we also have some messages that are related with audio visuals. And that's the essence of TikTok, the essence of YouTube, and the essence of what we call it, Flickr. You can get your messages across to the people, I think, on this platform. So, because I intend to make this my interaction with you as brief as so that I can get feedback from you. Based on these little things I'm able to get across to you, I just want to also hear from you, feedback from you, if you're able to internalize the major essentials of writing. And when you are writing for the social media, you're writing for the web. And that's exactly the message I get to pass across to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, sir. May Allah reward you abundantly. The next is our father, the former Sadar Majlis Kudamu Ahmadiyya, in person of Brother Abdurrafi Sahib. You have the floor, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. I want to really appreciate the organizers for a very thoughtful program, and I pray that everybody listening gets the best out of it. I have learned so much. I'm not a journalist. I'm not but I do a lot of reports, and I cherish reports, especially with the era of social media now. And I even organize and coordinate reports, mostly on social media, especially Facebook. And most things that were discussed are things that I've already been using and it's just putting a name to them actually. So I want to appreciate the organizers, and I hope that members of AMSA would use this opportunity to brush themselves up. There is no need attending this kind of seminars if you don't put them to use. That's why I want to appeal to them. They should also try one way or the other to start developing their writing skills. The social media is such a vast resource, and one that you don't know what you do that would give you the kind of attention you want. So I want to thank the organizers, and I pray that they organize more of it, and maybe they can be targeting now doing a practical session where we all sit down and write reports and things like that. May Almighty Allah, may God Almighty continue to support you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Jazakumullah khairan,
Yes,
sir.
Doctor, you are saying
Allah
that.
reward you.
Doctor, please, I have a question for Doctor.
Okay, please go
And I
ahead.
hope we would. Yeah,
Please go ahead.
this issue of sensational, people sensationalize news. It's down to that time when you look at the headline and what you get in the headline is different. So being a media practitioner, the online space is awash with different. I'm telling you, the kind of news we are getting this area makes me understand the importance of journalism, and responsible journalism is very, very key in developing the nation. So how do we actually, and online is what? Online is now awash with different kind of online news media, agencies, so many names. What can be done, and how can we safeguard ourselves to get? There's so many of us who would have shared on news that is not true, even without us knowing. So please, how would you guide us, not only as reporters, but also as news readers? How do we know what to share? How do we know? Because we also get educated somehow.
Okay, is there any other question so that I can warehouse everything all together? Are there more questions? Okay, if there are none, let me just address this. You have raised a very, very fundamental issue, which impacts on the ethics of our profession, journalism. In today's, we are also very, very worried about the rate at which news are not only being sensationalized, but news are also, there are so many untruths that are coming out today, what is referred to as the fake news. The dilemma of today's world, or even we practicing journalists, is the fact that a lot of people who are not trained journalists have taken over the space because they have access to various devices. And because technology has also made life so easy for budget to do. Everything everyone puts out will remain as news, but that is not true. So what when I was talking to you, I was emphasizing the 5 W's and H as an essential tool for effective writing. If you look at most of those information that people have been visualizing or sharing, these basic elements are not just there. And part of our training is that for every information you are going to share, you are going to get out to the people. You must be sure of your source. You must verify the source, because there's a danger in parroting lies or falsehood, because If we are not careful, we are going to have a disorder in society. I know exactly what society is turning into now. The first thing you have to take it off, when you get the message, when you just read through, find out who is writing this particular, who is sharing this information. What is the source? And also think about, why is this person sending this information? For what purpose? Where is the information coming from? So you have to take time to think through this, to distill this. And that's one reason why you see, as a journalist, when we get information, what we do is to do what we call distilling, analyzing, and also know what is the effect of this kind of information. But because of the rat race in which we are today, a lot of people just want to just pass by, give you an information, and then you can just walk away. And whatever you make of that information is not their concern. But for us as professional journalists, we are extremely careful in getting out information. And when we get out information, if there is an error, we will admit there is an error. But for those who are non-journalists, who are not trained, they are not bothered, they are not concerned. They are purveyor of false news, or false information, or fake news. So what we are going to do, and because everybody wants to, in the era of making money quickly, because the more number of likes or tweets that you have, there is always a reward for it. That's another danger. That's what we are facing. But the more that you have more likes, or more, it does not mean that the information you are giving out are correct. So all you need to know, or all you need to do, is to do what we call verification, and verify this information based on those five values on each act earlier on. Now, a typical example is the election tribunal verdict yesterday. Social media was so much aware that Oyetola has won. However, as somebody is a professional, what I need to do is just to wait for my own reporter who was at the venue of, who was at the court. So I rely so much on him to give me an accurate information, because I know he's a trained journalist. And as the reading of the judgment was just going on, we also trained our people who were doing that. Give us the snippet. We created a platform. So give us the analysis of the judges. And the judges are making the, okay, minority report, minority this, then majority ruling. It's fairly to us. So give us a summary of the items or the issues that are being discussed. That was actually why we were able to scale through yesterday. That we didn't join the bandwagon of promoting the sense that the Oyetola won the election. Because one thing that's also important in news is a restraint. You have to restrain yourself. Not every information that is meant for you. Not every information that will come across that you have to take. No. So you also need to ask questions on those information that are being sent to you. So for what purpose? Ask yourself, for what purpose? What is it going to achieve for me? Do I even need this? Do I need to know this? Who is sending this to me? So once we're able to look at some of these things, yeah, that will be fine for you. Today's world, responsible journalism is a serious challenge. And so some of us who are professionals are extremely embarrassed about what we are reading, about what we are sharing. And that's one reason why it is also trying to do something within our rank, the guild of editors. That's why we'll come up with what we call, fake news strategies. We have outlined it to the people what we need to do as an organization. And we also want to sanction our own members who, one way or the other, must have fought below the line. But you can't discipline somebody who is not a professional member. A lot of people are now imaginary, journalists. They're emergency journalists. Once they can just put one or two things together, they just post it. And then you guys will consume it. But we still have credible media organizations. There are people you defer to. And that's exactly why you have to define what you are consuming. It's very important. And because law in this does not catch up with quite a lot of people in what they post, in posting unverified information. But time is coming when the law will take the course. By the time you have one or two people that miss state goods, I think this issue will come to pass. But honestly, as a professional journalist, I'm extremely embarrassed with the type of information people are pushing out. And the end result of some of this information. Majority of this information are meant to create chaos, to create disunity in society. But for us as professionals, that is why we have to see through. Even when people are looking at, you look at certain headlines in the newspaper or you heard on the radio, we are taking our back because we are not conscious of the secret implication of what we are pushing. And that's why today you see a lot of people are selective based on information that they get. Those who are extremely intelligent and those who know what they want. But that was why you, as a group of students, AMSA, you must be in this category of people who knows what they want, why they want it, for what purpose, and how do they want that. It's very important. So I appreciate the question you asked me. It's extremely important, and it's also impinging on the integrity of journalists themselves. But today, as I said, as I told you, there are quite a lot of fake journalists around. And there's a lot of people who claim that they are journalists because they can write, because they have the gadgets in which to disseminate information. But truly, they are not. Our motto as a journalist is that you must be fair, you must be balanced in whatever you are doing, and you must be responsible. So fairness, balance, and responsibility are the hallmark of trained journalists. But today, these three basic elements, principles, are missing in today's world. And it's a serious challenge to we trained journalists. But whatever we can do as trained journalists, we try to do it. But we do not control the use of gadgets. We don't control the use of technology. And so those who can acquire gadgets and acquire technology are free to use it as they want. So the onus lies on you and I to determine what kind of information you want, why you want that information, for what purpose, who is sending the information to you, and why is that information coming to you as you. This is very, very important. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan to our special guests. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide and protect you in the course of your endeavors. Jazakumullah khairan. We go to the next on the item, which is vote of thanks by Brother Ihsan Ahmad Sodeko, who is the Assistant General Secretary for AMSA. Brother Ihsan Ahmad, Bismillah.
Yes, sir. Jazakumullah khairan for having me here. I would like to say Jazakumullah khairan to the guest lecturers and our special guests, particularly the PR department of AMSA. This is a great initiative by the department that they have boosted for us. So I'd like to urge everyone on here to take to the lessons from today's event. The lecture was information filled, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to implement it in our daily tabligh. Once again, I say Jazakumullah khairan to everybody. I will leave it in the hands of the at this point. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan. Next on the agenda is closing remarks and closing prayer. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has been with us from the beginning of this workshop till this very moment. Alhamdulillah, we had two lectures delivered. First, on the quality reportage, a wordy means to an exponential tabligh. And the second is the fundamentals of news writing and reporting. Alhamdulillah, the speakers have done justice to the topic. Also, we had the opportunity to have our fathers on the call who also did their parts by enlightening us and giving us advice on how we can engage in news writing without going outside our bounds, without exceeding the limits. I will also advise that they should, the AMSA leadership should find a way such that this program can be replicated in various institutional units where we have AMSA, so that the real and true essence of this workshop can really be felt, can really be impacted in all our AMSA across the country. Wherever we have activities, let's report them on the various social media outlets available to us. I pray Allah in His infinite mercy continue to protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us, provide for us, and give us the spirit of sacrifice, because the Jamaat of the promised Messiah is the Jamaat that has to do with sacrifice. You must gain knowledge and at the same time sacrifice that knowledge in imbibing it to others. You must go and struggle, gain wealth, and sacrifice your wealth in the cause of Allah. So whatever we have as members of the Jamaat of the promised Messiah, you sacrifice it for the growth and success of the Jamaat. So may Allah continue to provide for us, elevate our status, and give us the spirit of sacrifice. Lastly, I will advise us, whatever we do, we should always put prayers first. Prayer is key. So let's always put prayer first in our activities. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Kindly join me in silent prayers. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.